Hi guys, I'm going to talk about alarms with loop follow in this video. As always, check the video title, description for any updates I might have to post about this video, changes, things like that. Also follow details on loop follow updates in general at customtype1.com in the blog. So on the left on the iPad, I have it set up using Night Scout, or sorry, using Dexcom only. And the right side is using Night Scout and or both. So Night Scout gives you additional alerts you can have. So this video, I'm going to only talk about the 6 primary alerts that can be used that are basically BG specific alerts, as well as the overall details that all alerts have access to. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the options other than the general alert settings. And so two options we have is snooze all and mute all. Snooze all will automatically skip all alerts until this time is expired. If I want to snooze everything for the next hour because I'm walking into a meeting, it's as simple as that. No alert will go off until after 2:10 p.m. Mute all is slightly different in that mute all will just mute the specific audio files that you select. So for instance, we have everything from like an emergency siren to a cuckoo clock that you can pick to play for specific sounds. So this will mute all of those and only trigger the iOS notification. If your sounds are on, you'll just have ding. If it's on vibrate, it'll just be bzz. Likewise with your Apple Watch. So this is really good for Apple Watch users. If you're going to be in meetings all day at work, you can set mute all for the entire day, and your watch will just tap you on the wrist for anytime there's an alert. And all the alerts can be snoozed directly from the notification on phone, iPad, and watch, so that you don't even have to pull your phone out. You can see the alert and snooze it right there. You probably saw me. You can end this early just by toggling the button off. The other ones I want to show you are these down here. You can skip active app inactive. I've sort of hit the point where we don't actually need that because the app rarely, if ever, gets killed by iOS in the background. Override system volume. Uh, Prior to iOS 15 with focus modes, there was no way to get through Do Not Disturb mode with the Dexcom Follow app. So if your phone was on Do Not Disturb, you were not getting follow notifications um, at night, and that can be a big issue. Override system volume not only overrides Do Not Disturb mode, it also overrides the hardware vibrate switch on the side of the phone. So no matter what setting your phone is in, that will sound the alert, and the volume level um, is the volume that it will play at. So even if your volume is turned all the way down, you're in Do Not Disturb, and your vibrate switch is on, the alerts will play at 50% volume. I do still recommend adding loop follow to every focus mode that you have, just in case Apple makes any updates that might change this or break this. That way it's still allowed through the notifications in all focus modes that you're using. Audio during calls is an option. That was a feature request. If you're on a phone call, it can be highly annoying to have the alarms playing in your ear while you're trying to talk, and then you have to pull your phone down and snooze it. Turning this off is essentially like doing mute for all alerts only during the phone call. So if a phone call is detected when an alert triggers, it'll just do the iOS notification. So you might hear a ding or you might feel the vibrate, but you're not going to hear the audio playing. And then ignore 0BG was another feature request. Recently, Dexcom has sensor errors have been triggering a 0 reading rather than the old just dashes of a null reading. And the problem with that is that would then trigger an urgent low alert, basically for sensor error. So if you choose to, you can tell it to ignore 0BG values for the alerts. And that really only affects low alerts and fast drop alerts. For instance, you have your 130 mgdl, then 110, then 80, and then it cuts out because it was a sensor error from a compression low. When it cuts out and it displays a 0 instead of just nothing, it will ignore the fast drop alert or the urgent low alert. And auto snooze CGM start. This is specifically for Night Scout users. And I apologize if you hear my fast drop alert going off in the background on my phone sitting next to me. If you enter your CGM value or your CGM start, so specifically it's called CGM start in Night Scout Care Portal, when it detects that sensor start, it will auto snooze alerts for the standard 2-hour sensor start time. So you don't have to worry about misreading alerts and stuff like that during the CGM start. And then nighttime settings, I'm just going to set this to 10 p.m. And this is going to be used for every alarm has an option to use this to control different aspects of the alarm. So we're going to say 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Okay, now I'm going to show you, you can see the top 6 alarms are BG alarms that everybody has access to, both Dexcom and Night Scout. Most of them should be fairly self-explanatory. They all share some common aspects, and I'm going to show you those common aspects here. So starting with urgent low, for any alarm, you need to turn it on if you want that alarm to be active. So if you don't want to use fast rise, for instance, leave fast rise turned off and it will not trigger. The first option is your BG. Again, make sure you select MGDL versus MMOL under the Night Scout settings, because that triggers a lot of stuff in the app like this to show it in one unit or the other. Now we do have predictive alerts. That is only available for loopers. It uses loops prediction. We do not have an algorithm in loop follow to do predictive alerts. So if you do have loop, you can set any number of minutes to get a predictive alert ahead of time. So 25 minutes, if loop predicts it's going to hit 55 within any time of that, it will trigger the alert. If you don't want to use it or you don't use loop, leave it at 0. 0 ignores it. Every alert has a default snooze time. The majority of them are in minutes. Some are in hours, and I'll point those out in the advanced alert section or video. So this is just the default minutes that it'll snooze when the alert goes off. I'm not going to select the sound because this triggers a one-time playthrough, so you can hear the sound when you select it. But if you tap on that, there's a few dozen sounds that you can choose from. So you can set every alert to a different sound so that you can start to recognize which ones are the extremely important ones that I have to jump out of bed immediately for versus well, I might go back to sleep and check it in a half an hour. Now, the next 3 options all relate to the nighttime hours that we set at the bottom, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. The first 2 are for the sound, and that's for this, in this case, emergency alarm siren. You can tell it, play the sound always at night, during the day, or never. So examples of this are an urgent low alert, you're going to want set to always. A fast drop, for instance, on fast drop, my default is to only play the sound at night. I'm not necessarily as concerned during the day because I've usually taken a look at the readings recently and I know what's coming. So we'll go back to urgent low. Repeat sound, that tells it play the sound just once. Usually they loop, or usually it's a 2 to 5 seconds long each sound. So do you want to play it once or repeating until you snooze it? Um, Again, something like urgent low, you're going to want repeating always. Um, Something like a no readings alert, you may never want to repeat it. You may only want to repeat it at night, but not during the day. So things like that. And pre-snooze allows you to have certain alarms that it doesn't even trigger at certain times. So um, pre-snooze is the opposite, though, is if you want it to always alert, you would select never, because you never want to pre-snooze it. Or do you want to pre-snooze it at night or during the day? An example of this is I pre-snooze, and you can't see them on the iPad, but you can see them in the Night Scout settings. Our sensor change and pump site change alerts, I have those pre-snoozed at night. I don't need to be woken up in the middle of the night knowing that we have to change the sensor, the next night at 11 p.m. as an example. And then snoozed until, when an alert goes off and you snooze it, this will automatically set to the time when it's not going to go off again. You can also manually set these. So if I want to manually snooze this for 1 hour, I can just pick the time, and every alert has this. Or if you use snooze all, that essentially does this same thing, but it applies it to all the alerts. If you want to disable a snooze early, you can just toggle it off. The next one we're going to show is the low alert, which has two additional settings. And the two additional settings are for persistence. There's times when, so our low alert is set at 70 milligrams per deciliter. And there's times when her BG might be hovering right around 70, and it might be 69, 71, 68, 71, 69, 71. I don't need to be woken up for that, especially because I know Loop is handling it. So in those instances, you can set a persistence and a delta of that persistence. And these work hand in hand to say, as long as the BG is within that delta, it's allowed to go for this much time before the alert would trigger. So in this instance, a delta of 5 on 70 means 65. So her BG is allowed to go to 60, to be 65 or above 65 for up to 30 minutes before I want to be notified. This allows loop time to have BG start to rise and know that it's not going to drop further. Now, if BG drops to 64, um, it'll immediately trigger, even if it's only been one reading. So this is a nice thing to deal with that flat BG line that's just on the lower side, that you really, it's not dangerous in that range. So you don't necessarily need to get woken up until it starts to become dangerous. High alert also has a persistence. This is simpler though, it's just purely a time length, is it will not trigger ever until it's hit that time. And the reason I have it on high is because you have an urgent high backing it up. So if it's a super fast rise, you could trigger fast rise and even urgent high before you triggered the high alerts for 60 minutes. And urgent high is a straight up, it will trigger the second BG hits 250 in this example. All right, the next four, or the last four that everybody has access to are no readings. This is straight up how much time of no readings before you trigger the alert. So 30 minutes in this example. Fast drop and fast rise both work the same, just in opposite directions. It uses a delta and a number of readings. So for instance, this says a delta of 10. So in fast drop, it would mean 100, 90, 80. So a delta of 10 over 3 readings. Anything 10 or greater will trigger it over that many readings. Now, one interesting thing is we have BG limits on it. I don't really care if she has a fast drop from 190 to 180 to 170, because there's no danger to that. She's not going to be going low right away. So you can BG limits on, which will skip this if BG is above that value. So it'll only trigger it if she's dropping and below 120. Now that will still trigger if that third reading is below 120. So, the nice thing is you can set this at the lower end. So if BG flattens out at 121, it won't be triggered. But if that last reading drops from 129 to 119, it would be triggered. And fast rise is the same, just opposite. Only if it's above that BG will the fast rise trigger. Now, the last general alert I want to show you is a temporary alert. This is one of my favorites. Um, this is a one-time alert that you can use to trigger when BG is above a number or below a number. Times we use this is if she's stuck on high and we give a super bolus to try and get her down quickly, and open loop. So that's specifically for loopers in this example. But we may want to close loop at 180, depending on how much insulin we gave her. And there's no alerts that will trigger at 180. So we can simply change this BG value up to 180. And turn the alert on. And this says alert below BG. So as soon as the BG is below 180, this alert will go off. And that's my indication, middle of the night, I don't have to stay awake waiting for the time period I can close loop. I can just go back to bed and wait for this alert to go off. People have told us they use this for exercise, and here you can see an alert going off. It just went off because she's obviously below 180. This is what the snooze screen looks like, and I'm going to show you another one in a minute. So we'll just snooze it. Now with temporary alert, you notice there's no snooze option below. There's just a repeat sound. There's also no day night because this is just whenever you turn it on. There's no snooze on because it's a one-time alert. It's meant to be used for very specific situations. So the next time you want to use it, just toggle it back on. Other people use this for exercising. For instance, their low alert might be 70, but if they're doing a hard exercise, they might want to know if they drop under 100. So you can set this to 100 and toggle it on when you're exercising and get that alert so that you can have some carbs before you have to worry about it during exercise. And then if you want to alert it when it's over a certain number, for instance, if you are eating, you're really low, but you're going to start eating a meal, and you want to know when she's over 70, you can simply toggle the alert below BG off. And so now it will alert when over whatever value you have set if you turn it back on. Now I need to see where she's at because I want to show you how most alarms work with the snooze option. So I'm going to just turn this one on. And I'll set it high enough so that hopefully this next reading triggers it. And we're going to wait for this next reading to show up. Now, normally I mentioned I stay on the snooze tab at night. It will, and I may have just missed the time for that to trigger. So I might, oh, no, there it went. So at night with dark mode on, this is a great screen because it has this top section plus the time. But if an alert goes off, it's right there with the snooze button. If you are in the app, it'll automatically switch to this snooze screen. And let's see if I was able to get notifications or not on, so I can't show you that right now. The default snooze time was 5 minutes for this low alert. If you want to just accept 5 minutes and snooze it for 5 minutes, you can just hit snooze. Alternatively, you can adjust the snooze time, and I can hit snooze, and now it's snoozed for 25 minutes. I will try to see if we can edit notifications. This is running in a simulator in Xcode, so I'm not sure. Yeah, there's no options for that in the simulator. So with a notification, when it pops up, you can swipe down on the notification, like from right on it, pull it down a little, and you'll see a snooze button. And you can do that from any screen on the phone or on the watch notification for any alert that goes off. So those are the general alerts for the BG readings. Check back for the next video, which is just going to cover the additional settings for these other alerts.